This is the most important question. Is flat Earth still tenable after the final experiment? What do you think? My answer should be obvious with my new background. If you did not notice, I removed the flat Earth map, the AE map, from my background as that map was falsified by TFE. I also removed the ice wall version of Antarctica as there was no ice wall when we flew to Antarctica. So the ice wall was also falsified by TFE. If you haven't noticed, the flat earth community cannot make up their mind as to what to do with our trip to Antarctica and, most importantly, the 24-hour sun. Was it a green screen? Were we in a studio? Did we film this in the Arctic last June? Did we fake a sun? Were we in a giant sphere of LED screens? The latest theory I heard from the flat earth community is Vapegate. This one is hilarious. People think they caught Austin Whitsitt vaping on Dave McKeegan's 24-hour time lapse, and they think Austin did this because no one could see his breath in the cold. I just love all these wild theories. Why, you ask? Because you are giving the greatest gift to the 4 flat earthers who were with us in Antarctica. You are showing them the truth of the flat earth movement. It's not about truth. It's not about critical thinking. It's essentially just dogma at this point. Dogma that is believed regardless of anything presented, regardless of evidence, regardless of eyewitness testimony from your own fellow flat earthers, regardless of reality. Eric Dubé is one of the most well-known flat earthers in the world, and he released a video about a week ago shortly after TFE concluded. And in this video, he said something very interesting.
They made up their own straw man experiment and labeled it final, with the hope that their results would be the last words on the flat versus globe debate. Unfortunately for Will, and to the surprise of no flat earthers, the results of his experiment haven't changed people's minds and aren't the final words on anything.
Now, this is rather disingenuous of you, Eric, because you of all people know that the final experiment changed the minds of flat earthers even before we went to Antarctica. And you know this because it was your longtime supporter, Amaral, who left flat earth thanks in part to your reaction to TFE. He saw with his own eyes your claim that the 24-hour sun in the Arctic proved the Earth is flat.
The midnight sun rises on the 22nd, and for the next 72 hours never disappears from sight, slowly ascending and descending every 12 hours, showing 3 brilliant sunsets and sunrises without ever actually setting below the horizon. And yet the midnight sun can clearly be seen as low as the 65th parallel. This is another absolute proof that the Earth is the flat, stationary center of the universe.
But then after we announced we would go to Antarctica, you then completely changed your tune and now criticize Globers for saying essentially the same exact thing you used to say. It's precisely because flat earthers such as yourself, completely going back on what you've said for years and acting as if you never said these things, that will convince flat earthers like Amaral to leave flat earth. And you are incorrect that TFE has not changed people's minds. Testimonies of people leaving flat earth are starting to make their way to me, and we will never know how many people the final experiment actually converted. Here's one that was shared with me a few days ago. It says, "So my son is a flat earther. We hadn't told him anything about Will's trip to Antarctica. Well, he called us yesterday and said, 'Did you hear about this guy going to Antarctica to prove the globe?' Haha, we said yes, we actually knew him. Well, he told us that the Antarctica trip has completely changed his mind and he's no longer a flat earther." And then I received this email just this morning. Hi, Will. I just want to say thank you for doing TFE. I had been waiting for months in anticipation of what would happen. I have been a flat earther for the past 3 years. What initially got me into the flat earth was a video I saw by Dave Murphy called The Biggest Lie of All. And then I watched many other flat earth videos. I became a Christian during this period, and I saw a lot of scripture that I believed described the earth as being flat. I have been convinced the earth is flat, as the globe just didn't make any sense to me after what I looked into. I made a lot of connections online and in real life with people who believe the same. I am very surprised how many people believe the earth is flat, Christians in particular. Anyway, this belief of mine started to have an impact on my family. Not only did my siblings think I was a nutter, I have children who I home educate. I didn't have a clue what to tell them about the shape of the earth, other than some people believe it's flat and others believe it's a globe. I knew I had to make a decision and teach them something more than this because they are growing and I couldn't avoid it forever. The issue I had was I would not lie to my children about this just because the majority of people believe it's a globe. But then I and they would be ridiculed for this belief going forward. I had questions on both sides that didn't make sense, and I felt so stressed about the whole situation. I then saw a video of you and Justin Peters discussing the final experiment. I thought it was a great idea, and I decided that whatever the result of that experiment was, is what I would teach my children about the shape of the earth. She goes on to say that she found Dave McKeegan's channel because of TFE, and that he soundly debunks so many things she believed about flat earth. She ends her email by saying, anyway, the point of my email is just to say thank you, because without TFE, I would still be worrying and unsure what to teach my children. It has completely changed my life, and I can't describe the weight lifted off my shoulders. All I've ever wanted is the truth, no matter what that may be. So I am happy to say I am no longer a flat earther, and I'm embracing the beauty of the true world we live in and the wonder of how God made it. Here's another email I received a week ago. The subject is, thank you. TFE set me back on a correct path. You can pause the video if you want to read the whole thing. And then you might remember Rob. I interviewed Rob on our channel over a month ago. He had his Gleason's map, and we had a good discussion about TFE and the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Well, Rob called me and said he is no longer considering flat Earth as a possibility. People are leaving flat Earth thanks to TFE, and I have no doubt that this will continue as word travels about the results of our trip to Antarctica. If you have left flat Earth due to TFE, please send me an email. My email is in the description below. And if you know of someone who has left flat Earth due to TFE, let me know. I won't ever mention your name, but it's encouraging to see the good thing that is coming from what we did. As I've said before, the purpose of the final experiment was to help humanity as a whole. Too much time is wasted debating the shape of the earth. And that time would be much better spent with our loved ones and making this world a better place. So is flat Earth even tenable after the final experiment? It is not. Flat Earth is finished. Don't believe me? Well, tune in tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Modern Day Debate YouTube channel, where this very question will be debated. MC Toon, who was with us in Antarctica and conducted over a dozen experiments of his own, will be arguing that flat Earth is simply not plausible anymore after TFE. Now, of course, he never thought flat Earth was plausible in the first place, but the evidence we brought back from our time in both Chile and Antarctica is simply irrefutable. It makes flat Earth impossible. And here's the cool thing about TFE. The final experiment changed this debate forever. The topic of flat Earth will always be remembered pre-TFE and post-TFE. You know how we use BC to refer to before Christ? Well, I think we should start talking about flat Earth as BTFE and ATFE, before the final experiment and after the final experiment. Now, I know everyone is dying for us to release our data and our findings and our experiments, and we will do this starting Monday. Our channel's new playlist, The final experiments will be released on Monday with our first video in this playlist. And this playlist is going to be the most important contribution that TFE will give to the world. When all 15 videos are released, they will be a preponderance of evidence against flat Earth. And if someone cannot deal with this preponderance of evidence, they need to abandon flat Earth. Of course, willing ignorance and cognitive dissonance are always an option, but don't call yourself a truther if you are going to go down that path. If any flat earther going forward wants to debate flat Earth, everyone on the globe side needs to demand answers to our 15 experiments and their results. Those must be answered first, and if they can't, the debate is over. If a channel is not willing to respond to all 15 of our experiments, then unsubscribe from their channel and move on. There's no need to watch their content anymore, as they have proven to you they are not in pursuit of truth. You see, we did actual science. We have some of the most important data ever collected in the history of the debate over the shape of the Earth. Dave McKeegan and I were actually emailed by a university professor, and he's interested in some very specific data that we collected, which he says he doesn't think has ever been collected before in history. Now, if you are not interested in our data, you are not interested in truth. If you aren't just dying to know what happens in the Southern Hemisphere, which is the part of the world where the globe and the flat Earth myth vary the most, you aren't interested in understanding the true nature of our world. And if you aren't willing to acknowledge that the results of our experiments match the globe predictions, and if you aren't willing to admit that this preponderance of evidence means it's very likely the globe is true, then you are not a truther. So buckle up. This is going to be an incredible ride. We thought of just about everything, and we aren't going to hold anything back either. All of our raw original footage will be released to the public. It just will take time, so please be patient. So make sure you tune in tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Modern Day Debate YouTube channel to see if Flat Earther Brian is able to rescue Flat Earth from the devastation that is the final experiments we did on our trip. And starting Monday, right here on the TFE channel, I will begin releasing our 15 experiments. You do not want to miss this. And Flat Earthers, you should be the most excited for this. Because as Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free.